And welcome everyone. So we are here on Monday, May 22nd, 2023. And if I could have everyone join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
How are you?
We'll talk after.
Okay.
Roll call, please. Mike, are you doing that?
I'm doing it all.
Okay.
Filkins.
Here.
Host.
Here.
Rice.
Here.
Bunce.
Here.
Bosher.
Here.
Fent.
Here.
Putvin.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. I need an approval of this evening's agenda before I get going with people. I'll let our public audience know that our last meeting was February 27th, so we were not here in March and or April. So that's why you missed us, because we weren't here.
I'll make
Other-
a motion to approve the agenda for this evening.
Thank you,
I'll
Mayor.
second it, or somebody,
Mr. Fent seconded.
or Mr. Bunce, it makes no difference.
Makes no difference.
Putvin.
Yes.
Bosher.
Yes.
Bunce.
Yes.
Fent.
Yes.
Rice.
Yes.
Filkins.
Yes.
Host.
Yes.
Hopefully everyone had a chance to review February 27th meeting minutes. I found no mistakes personally.
No, me neither. I move that we approve the meeting minutes from February 27th. Just need a second.
I'll second.
Okay.
I know.
Okay. Fent.
Yes.
Bunce.
Yes.
Filkins.
Yes.
Host.
Yes.
Rice.
Yes.
Bosher.
Yes.
Putvin.
Yes. This evening we have a public hearing. This is a special land use application filed by 5Ds of Cadillac LLC to allow for a tattoo parlor adult business use. After reading this, since Mr. Coy said he's doing her all, I figure that's who has this.
It's all mine.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Tattoo parlors in our ordinance are considered an adult business, which means they require a special land use. In your packet, and I didn't put slides for each one of these, there is a condition in there that I just think is unique. And this whole thing is a little unique from the standpoint that the gentleman that owns the tattoo parlor or wants to have the business, he came in for a business permit application, and we were just ready to sign off on it. And there's a thing in our GIS, when I bring up zoning, I can click, and it'll tell me if there is let's say a special land use that was done by 10, 15 years ago for a property. So these special land uses, Jim Ray would put a note in the system that it would just bring it up, and all you do is go in the back room, pull the ordinance, and you know what it's about. Very, very easy to find. So when I brought up the GIS and I clicked on this location, I couldn't find a special land use for that. And I thought to myself, I believe there's been tattoo parlors in that complex of buildings many years ago already. I believe it's already happened.
Yeah.
So then I went to the address where Kell Graphics is at on River Street. And I clicked on that, and sure enough, it didn't show there was ever a special land use. And there's been 2 or 3 tattoo parlors in that building. Then I clicked on the one at 820 South Mitchell, which is next to the Dollar General store, because I know there's been tattoo parlors there. Clicked on that. I couldn't find any special land uses. So it just makes me wonder if years ago they were just approving the business licenses and nobody was really reading the ordinance. I don't know. I have no reason to know. Yes.
We also had one though at Cadillac Marketplace before it was ever that was in front of us.
Okay, got it. So they've come before you before then.
Yeah.
There was just no note in the system that I could find. So at that point, I contacted Melissa, who owns the property, and said, hey, we've got to at least do a special land use to follow the ordinance. All the conditions for an adult business were met with no issues, except there's one, and this I also found interesting because it talks about in section 467732 that within a 300-foot radius, that there should not be any residence, dwelling, daycare, church, public park, or school unless a petition is received. And then it also says that the Planning Commission can waive this. And I got thinking, well, okay, so I did with the GIS the 300-foot thing, and to the west of here is, for example, Cadillac Casting. To the north, it's B3 General Business. South, across the street, it's a couple of auto parts stores and a quick oil change. Lincoln School is outside the 300 feet. But behind the one auto parts store, there are a couple of residential properties that touch the outside of the 300 foot. So that's part of the reason it's now here before you. In doing the same thing, I went to the one at 820 South Mitchell, and going east and west 300 feet, there were a number of residential homes. I went to the one where Kel Graphics is at, and I did a 300-foot circle on the, you go from the property lines, not the center of the property. I counted 25 different residences within 300 feet. So I just, rather than get into a long thing here, I just found this to be very odd, one, in that I couldn't find these special land uses where they'd been approved, but also that there were so many residential homes within 300 feet. So I'm just explaining that because, you know, I've only been here 10 years, but I can't speak for how things were done 20 years ago. I mean, I don't know. So anyway, I want to move on with this. This is the complex of office suites that Melissa and her partners own, and they've got a lot of different small business suites in there, some larger than others, but they have a variety of different businesses. They've had everything from, I think, real estate, insurance. There's I think a health insurance company. There's a variety of different businesses that have been here. But in approving a special land use, there is this basis of determination which you're familiar with, and it does say prior to the approval of a special land use, the Planning Commission shall review all the facts submitted to ensure compliance with the following standards, as well as applicable established standards established elsewhere in the code. General standards. Basically, the first one is a special land use shall be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained in a harmonious manner with the character of adjacent properties. And I just misplaced something here. Okay. And in the staff report, I basically, in discussing this with John and I, we find that this office complex dates back a few decades. I don't know how old the building is.
64 to 67.
Okay. And anyway, the tenants historically have always been compliant with the various ordinances. And we also believe, I believe, there's been a tattoo parlor in that building before. I don't know, though, and I just don't know. But we do feel that based on all the suites that are in it, the way they're broken up, we just think it's maintained, it's harmonious with adjacent properties and with the current and previous use of the property. The special land use shall not inappropriately change the essential character of the surrounding area. Basically, the building is there. The person that wants to have this business will basically just be renting one of the suites. Mm-hmm. And he, of course, that type of business has a number of regulations, state health and so forth, that they have to adhere to.
Right.
C, the special land use shall not interfere with the general enjoyment of adjacent property. We don't see how this is going to affect adjacent properties in any manner. The special land use shall represent an improvement to the use or character of the property under consideration and the surrounding area in general, yet also be in keeping with the natural environment of the site. That's an interesting one because it's certainly not going to change the surrounding environment. And as far as an improvement to the use, well, it does help the owner of this fill a suite and, make it hopefully profitable. E, the special land use shall not be hazardous to adjacent properties or involve uses, activities, materials, or equipment which will be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the persons or property through the excessive production of traffic noise, odor, fumes, or glare. We don't see any issues there, and just want to mention again that this is a type of business that is regulated by the health department in the state of Michigan.
If I may, the health department has come in many times and made sure that he's all compliant, and I keep up with that as well.
At a point, I'll have you up front to
Oh,
tell
okay.
us.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. The special land use shall be adequately served by essential public facilities and services. Certainly, the volume of water that's used. So, I mean, it's not going to affect anything in that sense as far as any additional anything additional is going to be needed for public services. Mitchell Street, as we know, is a very, very heavily trafficked street in that area, and certainly this particular use is not going to create any excessive traffic by any means. So anyway, it kind of ends with the proposed special land use shall be able to continually provide adequately for the services, facilities deemed essential for the special land use under consideration. We certainly do not see any issues there either. The special land use shall not place demands on the public services and facilities in excess of current capacity. I just mentioned that. The special land use shall be consistent with the intent and purpose of this chapter and the objectives of the currently adopted long-range comprehensive plan. Again, we just think it serves the intent. The Michigan Zoning Enabling Act is pretty darn clear that we have to have zoning districts, and this is a B3 district general. We have to have zoning districts where businesses like this are allowed. But, of course, we have the right for conditions and so forth. That's kind of it. Public notices were mailed. We received absolutely no comment for or against the use from any of the surrounding property owners, including the couple of residential. There was no feedback from any of them whatsoever. And lastly, it's basically this is your action. You may approve the application for a special land use for a tattoo parlor, or you can approve it with conditions, or you can deny the applicant's request for this special land use. Special land uses do not require additional approval from City Council. You're it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Coy.
I
Any
have-
questions for Mr. Coy?
No, that's good.
Okay. At this time, I will open the public hearing. So whomever would like to come forward and speak in favor or against, either one, just please come forward, state your name, and we don't have paper here, so I guess you're not going to write down your address.
There's a paper there.
Is it there?
Oh, yes.
I can't see because it's clear. I can't see it. It's a bad angle for me. I got glasses right here. It has nothing to do with that. Anyway, please just write down your address because we don't have you say it for privacy reasons.
All right.
And I'll stop rambling in a second.
I guess he's go ahead and get this.
All right. No, thank you for putting all that together, Mike. I appreciate that. I couldn't have done any better. So I didn't know to not interject. So yeah, he has.
Before you get going, if you.
Oh, my name.
Everyone else.
Yep, my name is Melissa Hanford. I am a CPA. I also have an office in my building. And we rent out, I think there's about 15 or 17, I think 16, something like that, different suites. When I bought the building 5 years ago, it was more than half empty. I've put a lot of personal time into the building. I don't know if you guys have noticed. Yes, the signs are ugly and they're going to change eventually, but those weren't imperative. So you know, we've improved not only the exterior, the parking lot, the awning, the roof, but the interior as well. All of my tenants are, they came through COVID with me. I didn't lose one tenant through COVID. And he's one of them. He's one of them. He has been there for quite a few years. I think it's about 3, maybe 4. I don't know. We had no idea that this was a thing. He brought in the health department before he ever opened. I thought that was, I thought he had went through everything. Far as the business license, it was me, as I was doing his tax returns, and had realized I didn't think he had his business license, and says, well, you need to go get a business license from the city. Oh, well, I didn't know that. Okay, so he come down, got the business license, and then this came to be. So it is in hindsight. He's been a good tenant. He is ex-military, to let you guys know. I don't know. Any questions, I guess? Anything I'm missing? He's been a great tenant. He's, I will not, being that my house is less than a block away, I have pretty much constant eyes on the place. I don't let riffraff hang around. Yeah, anything else?
Does he have same hours as what your building is, or?
My building, so what I do is I give the tenants a key. I tell them they have 24-hour access. Okay, they can come in and come into their spot, their suite, 24 hours a day. He does maintain pretty much business hours. He works the Saturdays and Sundays on the weekends, as you would imagine. But he does have a family, a young wife, and a young child. She's should be about 2 now, I think. So he does have he has a young family as well.
Nice.
So, but he's a pretty upstanding young man. And I was, he's actually son-in-law to one of my other clients, so, yeah, pretty, yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah, but,
Any questions for Melissa?
No, that's good.
no.
You answered them.
Oh, good,
Wonderful.
good. I do have a couple of other things that aren't, applicable to this. I don't know
At a
if,
point, I have public comment. if
Okay.
that doesn't
Yep, would
deal
be
with what we have in front of us right
Yep.
now.
so that's all I have on this.
Okay.
Okay,
Wonderful.
thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in our audience this evening in favor or against this proposed business? Seeing or hearing from no one, at this time I will close the public hearing, and the board here can discuss this. I don't see flags.
Yeah, I don't either. Does anybody have any questions or concerns?
I'd entertain a motion. Then, if everybody's good.
Why don't you do a motion this time? Do you want to?
Sure. I make a motion that we approve the request.
There you go, I'll second it.
Something about as per staff has outlined or something and blah, blah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
As per
Wonderful.
Mike's
Staff.
And I have a
wonderful
second.
outline.
I'll second it.
Fent, Mr. Fent seconded?
Yep, got it. Bosher,
Yes.
Putvin,
Yes.
Host,
Yes.
Bunce,
Yes.
Filkins,
Yes.
Rice,
Yes.
Fent.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Next, let's see, what do we have? New business. I don't know if anyone's here for that, but new business. So we have 817 East Chapin, a property line adjustment for the vacant lot located east of that 817 East Chapin address.
Correct.
And Mr. Coy, if you take it from there, please.
I think in your package, you've got the aerial GIS of the site. This is here before you because this is in a plat. It's a platted area in the city of Cadillac. The plat is not being changed in any way, shape, or form. It's a property line adjustment. We've had these before. What's interesting is I've had attorneys, title companies tell me these type of property line adjustments, because we're not changing the plat, technically don't need planning commission approval, but the verbiage in our ordinance, I'm more comfortable bringing it here, you know, for a $35 general, general type of business thing. It's just worth making you folks aware of what's going on. Ironically, less than 2 weeks ago, I got an application for almost the exact same thing, but on a property that's not in a platted area. And I was able to just review the app, approve it, send the approval information to Wexford County Equalization. I mean, it was just an administrative staff thing. But essentially, what he wants to do, and I'm not gonna bring all this up, is this is in, I believe, an R2 zone, which means to be a conforming lot, it should be 75 feet wide. And all of these homes here at the end of Chapin, they're on 75-foot lots. So they're very compliant in that sense. This gentleman bought this strip of vacant property. You've got the United Methodist Church over here. So you've got this over here. He's got well in excess of 200 and some feet. So what he wants to do, he owns it. I believe my report says he wants to transfer the property line or transfer 25 feet from this lot number and combine it with the lot that his home is on. My guess is his intent is down the road to put, for example, maybe a 2-car garage or something like that. He can't put up a big pole barn because the ordinance restricts the size of accessory buildings in residential neighborhoods. So what it will do after that is it'll still leave this particular lot that'll still be over 200 feet in width. This lot will gain another 25 feet in width. Everything's compliant. It's just a property line adjustment. It's not a true land division.
It eliminates one lot then, doesn't it?
Lot number. This
Right.
is all combined.
Right.
So this is one lot. But
It just
because-
eliminates one of those numbers.
One of those
Yeah.
lot numbers,
Okay.
yeah, because it's in a plat.
We're not leaving a short lot.
They have lot numbers, right. So if this were to be, let's say, he wanted to sell it to someone for homes or whatever, all of the ones would have to be a minimum of 75 feet wide, or we wouldn't allow that type of a split.
Okay.
But that would again come before you, only because this is in a platted neighborhood. And, but again, it's not changing the plat, it's just a property line adjustment. We've had these before. I really don't have anything more to say.
Well, we just did one a couple months ago.
Yes,
For
Yeah.
Mr. Thebo.
yes.
Yeah. I went by there before I came, and wow, next to his driveway, that just goes, phew.
Yeah, there's some,
Drops
there's
right
terrain,
off.
there's terrain.
Yeah. So, okay.
You have any questions for me?
No, I just noticed it was really steep right there and wasn't sure what he had in mind, but
Mhm.
if he, technically, I mean, since he owns them both, he's parking on the other side, but whatever.
Yeah.
It's just whatever.
Well, he owns it all.
Yeah, he
He
owns it
owns
all.
it all.
So, honestly, you can park anywhere, in there. Okay.
Yeah, I don't see a problem.
No, neither.
Is anybody here that wants to speak in favor or against?
No, it's just new business.
Is this new
It's
business?
not a public hearing,
Okay.
Yep. No public hearing required.
so. Mm-hmm. Go for it.
I guess I make a motion to allow this property line to be moved to the adjacent lot on 817 Chapin.
I will second that.
Bosher,
Yes.
Bunce,
Yes.
Fent,
Yes.
Putvin,
Yes.
Host,
Yes.
Rice,
Yes.
Filkins.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Do we need to, I don't know if you're gonna use the verbiage from the request before the planning commission, but we're not doing a lot split. We're just
It's not a lot split, it's a
We're doing a
property
property
line
line
adjustment. Yep.
So if you,
Yep.
if,
The application,
It got written in there,
yeah,
what it was,
right,
yeah.
yeah. And I might add, then what we require him to do, I mean, this is a different thing I've got here. Then what he's required to do at the same moment I send the approval to Wexford County Equalization, I also have a form that says combining of property. So what it'll include is the property with his home and 25 feet, so that we don't have a non-conforming 25-foot strip of property just sitting out there. And there are a few in our community that are just that.
Okay.
So it's all it's done at the same time. It's the same paperwork, it all just goes right to equalization.
Perfect.
Okay.
We good? Everybody good? Okay. I wondered when this other was coming at us. Old business,
Okay,
Mr. Coy, which is in
well,
zoning
this
enforcement. Chris
this
Coy.
is an update.
Yes, sir.
When this planning commission approved the special land use for Chris Oil's gas station and convenience store, I think all of you remember, there was a discussion on the width of the paved sidewalk on the east side because they were having perpendicular parking. And the discussion was simply, if you intend to put any display of product out on that sidewalk, the sidewalk should be at least 8 foot wide, at least. They didn't want to do it. And basically, your approval was, and we had the site plan, a condition of the approval, was if they were going to do a 5 foot wide sidewalk, there would be no display of product on the sidewalk where this perpendicular parking is located. Well, they've added more to this. There's now firewood out there. You can see it doesn't give a 5 foot wide sidewalk for ADA compliance. Couple examples, I'd mentioned south end of town. The Dollar General store, they have some display of product. They have an 8 foot wide sidewalk. J&H Oil out at Cadillac Junction. We had the same discussion with them. They built an 8 foot wide sidewalk. So the newer structures have gotten it, realized it, and did it. I know they've been sent a letter. The person that received the letter called me, let me know he forwarded it to the right person, the person in charge of operations for Northern Michigan. I've called, left the gentleman a message. He's not responding. So the plan is to send a second letter. I'll be discussing this more with Marcus and John, obviously in the very, very near future, to see what more we should be doing, but I am intending to send a second letter. And but I just want to make you aware that this is part of our job. If you approve something and you put conditions in it, we, meaning staff, along with you, should be paying attention and looking to see if people are complying or not.
Agreed.
I know a comment's gonna come up about Speedway across the street. Well, they don't have perpendicular parking in front of their business, and I know they haven't striped it in a while. Actually, the area in front of the store is probably no parking. So they have display of product, we've all seen it, but that sidewalk is even wider than 5 foot. I measured it, it's 6 foot. So this is for nothing more than to make you aware that we are aware that they are not compliant with the condition that this planning commission included with their approval for a special land use.
Agreed.
So that's all I have to say.
I remember the meeting, and he was told very specifically that he couldn't do it.
Yep.
And in fact, we had a conversation about it the last meeting we had, how I saw stuff where he wasn't supposed to have it.
Right.
So,
Thank you for that update.
Okay.
Board member comments. Mine's kind of a comment slash question.
Oh,
At our February 27th meeting pertaining to the rezoning of the Levan property, I guess my question slash comment is, personally, I feel this board would have handled that a little differently if we would have known there was a letter sent out that we were unaware of. It was
rezoning of,
non-compliant.
I agree.
rezoning of, the Pine Street.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So then I read
That
this in the
letter-
paper and everything else, and I'm like, wow, staff
What-
did not bring this to our attention.
There was no letter sent out at that time.
Well, it said one was in January and he was still in violation. We didn't have this till February 27th. Something didn't add up to me. Sir,
I think the first letter to that individual went out, last week ago?
because it came up at council,
Right.
Mr. Ingles, I believe, and I'm like, whoa, that's a blind side. That's almost a kick in our pants.
Yeah, no, to me, it sounds like there's maybe some confusion from what you're reading by the newspaper or hearing in the media versus what actually happened. And so to bring the planning commission sort of into a time machine and go way back a number of years ago when the state legislature was talking about short-term rentals and talking about it from the perspective of removing local control from local units of government with regard to our ability to zone for that type of special use. City of Cadillac, basically through John's office, the development director, wrote a general letter that we posted online. It's been online now for, 5 years maybe, 4 years, something like that. It's been on there for a while. Probably not 5 years. The whole COVID thing in between is playing a little bit of a game with my own mind in terms of timing, so I apologize for that. But it's been posted now for quite a while, basically setting the framework and explaining what zones and what areas the use can be used in, and if you're operating one, you're basically doing it at your own peril, because while the city has yet to make a decision based on the fact that Lansing has yet to frankly really decide whether or not this is something that we at the local level will be able to even adjudicate on. We were at that point in time taking our time, kind of waiting to see, hoping that Lansing, that the state would actually make a decision regarding this whole issue, which, by the way, they still have yet to do. We had posted essentially a memo that was a general shot across the bow to anybody and everybody. Here is how we are interpreting our current zoning code. If you're doing this, understand that we might tell you you need to stop it if it comes to our attention. If we are notified, if somebody complains, if somebody says there's raucous parties, raucous activities, and then we do an investigation and learn that, well, you still can't have raucous parties even if it's owner occupied. But now we've learned that it's a short-term rental situation. And you happen to be in a zone that it's clearly not allowed, even with the what's the word I'm looking for? The greatest interpretation or reach of interpretation of what our current current code talks about. It talks about boarding houses and things of that ilk. When the code was written, there was no such thing as Airbnb or VRBOs. And so we've used the lingo and the semantics from when the code was written to try to stretch that meaning and interpret how that would work in today's world. But we're very clear in saying, understand you're operating at your own peril. So that would be, I think, the letter, Mr. Chair, that you're thinking about. Subsequent to the Planning Commission's actions of recommending approval to City Council that we rezone this particular parcel of property, which, by the way, just for reference sake, was not even in a residential zone to begin with, but rezone it so that the use would be compliant with what our current interpretation is and would be compliant with what we are ultimately going to be recommending in terms of our overall zoning updates to the Planning Commission, to the community, to the City Council. That was what we presented to you guys. That was what was presented to City Council for consideration as well. Subsequent to that, and subsequent to the media attention that it created, and subsequent to then further direction from the City Council, essentially cease and desist letters then went out to all parties that we're aware of that are operating short-term rental type facilities within the city in areas that would be areas in non-compliance, including this home off of Pine Street. Happened after the fact. The only thing that would have happened before the fact happened, frankly, at least a couple of years before the fact, and that's this memorandum that you could still find on our website that just talks about what the current zoning is and current uses are. So,
You see the reason for my statement. Our board,
Yes.
I feel,
Sure.
does a great job at recommending to council to help speed everything up. And then, whoa,
yep,
whoa,
no, I agree.
we spun our wheels.
No, and if there was a letter which there wasn't, but we certainly would have provided that to you in the staff communication.
Okay, sir. I thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to sit down.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Maybe not.
So,
Maybe not.
Will that parcel be looked at separately because of its office service zoning now, or is it tabled until the whole
It-
master
Y-
is?
So, yes, it is, I don't know if tabled is the right word to use, but it is going to be a part of the overall consideration of the overall zoning redo, if you will, based upon this action from the City Council. So, because the City Council did not approve the rezoning application that was recommended, right now it's dead in the water. And the policy direction back from the City Council was not that it is in an area that wouldn't be appropriate for that use, not that that property wouldn't even be an appropriate property for that use. Very similar comments to what this public body made, but that instead of looking at it with, in a sense, just a laser focus on it, as we did here, they wanted it as a part of the whole overall community-wide zoning update that will cover all of the zones. And so June 13th, I'll say this here publicly now, I was going to wait till the end, but I'll just say it now. June 13th at 5:30, there's going to be what we're going to be starting to market as a public forum. The public forum is going to be talking about from staff, talking about the highlights of the overall zoning code update. And then as a part of that, we're going to identify what we foresee is maybe the 2 or 3, maybe there's only 2, maybe there's only 1, at least 1 for now, sort of hot button issues, short-term rental being obviously one of those. And then we're going to stop talking and we're going to ask people in the room for their feedback, for their opinions, for what they would like to see, the program look like. The city staff's sort of first step forward, everybody, is going to be a very conservative one. The policy that we're going to be recommending is basically going to be very limiting. I'm not even certain if there's going to be any short-term rental usages being recommended for any of the residential zones. Should it end up like that at the end of the day? Probably not. But that's where we want our public, our community, to tell us what they would like it to look like. What we will then in turn share with this body. Here's what the feedback has been, so that when we're giving you essentially the Play-Doh to mold you can take all of that feedback and hopefully come up with what would be a nice balanced program for the community. Because then, we'll play the public hearing, here with the planning commission, and then it goes to city council and another public hearing. And it'd be great to be able to tee it all up where we could say, we started this with a public forum that's sort of, outside of the norm. It's not an official public meeting of the bodies. It's really going to be, staff doing a presentation and then a listening session for the community. Obviously, everybody here is going to be invited to it. And we're hoping to really drive, some good conversation, some good information. And that's going to all start on June 13th. So
13th or 15th, sorry.
13th, I believe, is the date.
And that's out at the,
Yeah, it'll be at the brand-new water well field facility. There's a very large training room. I want to say it could hold maybe over 100 people. So it'll be really a nice space, a new place, plenty of parking, so.
So at this time, don't take this wrong.
No, it's okay.
Is the Pine Street not renting?
Couldn't tell you. I don't have somebody out there taking photographs, and I don't have any complaints coming in either.
Somebody out there last night
So.
taking photographs,
No.
oh, yeah.
right, when some guy pulled up.
Oh.
There's a woman across the street.
Chick.
Somebody's got eyes on it then, for you,
Well, that's good.
maybe?
That's good. So.
They did receive a cease and desist letter.
Okay.
Okay, well, bring it to our attention, yeah. And I agree, I'm glad you brought that up, because I felt the same way when it came through and said, what?
I feel we did
Did I
a good
help?
job, and then that didn't reflect it.
Hmm.
Thank you,
Okay.
Marcus.
Welcome.
Welcome this evening, by the way. I seen you come in, of course. Yeah, you're a small guy, I know. Okay. Staff, any communications?
None.
Or any other board comments? Sorry, I'm just taking, anybody else on board, anything? Okay. Now communications, sorry.
None.
We're good. Perfect.
This lady down here, I've never met her.
Oh, Miss Peggy. Okay. Our newest board member, Miss Peggy Host. So we have Dale and Kevin and
Hello.
you know me and the mayor and David and Greg.
Nice to meet you all.
And you,
Welcome.
and you too,
Thank you.
good to see you.
Her and her husband have the ski shop on the west side.
Oh, okay.
And again, yes, very good.
Glad to be here.
Thank
Thus, okay, moving along. Now, young lady, would be this time, in case, or whomever in our audience, for public comments. Just try and keep them around 3 minutes. Why? Because it's gorgeous out. And
Well, I want to, I didn't know that was going to come up, so I just want to say, being not only a business property owner, but a personal property owner as well in town. My daughter owns property in town. I would be taking pictures. I'd be one of those. Just to let you guys know, I think that our housing problem is a problem. The lack of is a problem, and having short-term rentals. So that just to put that out there, just to let you guys know. I have a lot of people that I know have the same feelings. So just to put that out there. The other thing is, in my building, I told Carla 4 years ago, I'm planning to open a pool hall. Yes, those are still in the works. COVID did all kinds of crazy stuff, and a bad roof. So the first year my fiance and I completely replaced our roof ourselves. So that took our first year. Second year, we were after tax season. I was planning on, we started getting ready to get a pool hall going up, and we all know what happened on May 20th or 21st. It was one of those two, right in the middle of tax season. COVID. It was horrible of 2020, and took my business into a good tailspin. I mean, my business is like exploded. But what I need to know, because in hindsight, I didn't know that there was a special business. Had I known when my tattoo artist came to me, and wanted to rent this, had I known that this would have been a special, I would have had this already done. With this knowledge, is there something that I need to do for the planning commission to open a pool hall?
Those would be questions for the staff. They'll guide you in all of that.
And I thought,
That's an easy one.
yes, okay. So I wasn't sure
In the B3 General Business District, under permitted uses by right, it does mention pool hall.
Okay.
So she will not need a special use permit for that at all.
Okay. All right. And that was all I needed to know was, and I thought I asked you, but
Just amend your
Lots of
business license to include it.
This is going to be a different business, though.
Then they'll need their own business.
Yes. Okay. So that was all I needed. I just wasn't sure that, that I don't get something else snuck up on behind me.
Very good.
That was it, though.
And we thank you for that.
Thank you.
Mr. Baxter.
Yes, Troy Baxter, and you know me by now. I will say that I'm happy to be approaching two events. One is the master zoning plan, which should be completed sometime this summer, and I'll preference that with the Lord willing, because it's been pushed down the road for quite a while. Also, a good look at the potential change for the Cooley School property from R2 zoning to RM2, and there's 3 or 4 sites that are being included in this master zoning plan. So I've got a sense for which direction those things are going, and so you'll see me again.
You are aware of the special meeting for this coming Wednesday?
Yes, and I thought it was curious that it was Wednesday at 2 o'clock.
Pardon me?
Is it next Wednesday?
Wednesday the 31st at 2 o'clock. That's curious.
I misspoke.
Because a lot of the people that would normally come to that event are working, which is that's curious. And why that would be chosen during that time.
There's really nothing curious about it. It's a special meeting that we had to align everybody's calendars to.
Yeah.
And that was difficult.
Yeah,
We tried an evening meeting, and that wasn't, we couldn't get a quorum at an evening meeting.
Yeah, and I understand it's everybody's schedules, but I'm anticipating there will be letters in lieu of being here in person. But at least we'll get that part of the whole zoning and what's happening for Cooley School in the future, moving towards a conclusion there. And so, one of the things that has been mentioned over the Airbnb situation is that Councilman King made a comment in April 17th meeting that people move into a zoning district expecting that zoning district to remain and invest their properties, and he was ready to defend that. And I believe our city manager echoed that at that meeting and also tonight. So I would hope that the same consideration would be given for the people that don't have as much property value around Cooley School as is being given to those that are on the lake on Sunnyside. Because in my opinion, it's the same scenario, that they have been in that location for some 30, 40 years, and it's their home. And changing that to multiple family use would not only be in one strict sense spot zoning. I know there's ways to get around that, but it would also be changing and allowing something that was prohibited before, and would also put a footprint for further expansion into what is now zoned residential. So I just know that's the stance, and I know that we'll work through it. I don't want to do an us and them stance. I want to do a us stance as a community and what's best for the community, knowing that Cooley School is part of the community that we're trying to get our arms around. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, sir. Seeing no one else in our public.
I guess I had one of, the reason why I would ask you is if I had liquor, if I decided to have liquor on the property, is that still with him, or would that be with the zoning?
I'm almost thinking now you're in the state of Michigan and staff.
Well, I know the state of Michigan, but I have to get permission from the city council, but I didn't know because I read it has to be zoned, and that's what I needed to find out if the area where my building's at is zoned.
Again,
Okay,
You
that's
might
fine.
leave some information.
My
with Mr. Ford.
understanding is for you to get a liquor license of some form from the state of Michigan, it will, in your application, there will need to be some form of a recommendation, or, now I'm tongue-tied, from council. It would have to come from
Absolutely,
council.
yep. There's a form I have to fill out, but it has to be zoned properly. And that's what I didn't know. That was the other thing was, is that zoned properly, so, to where I could. All right, so sorry.
Well, Carly, he threw that right back at you, didn't he?
what's that?
Mike, it's back to the council.
Well,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
anything,
Well,
and
I just
Marcus
wanna
knows
focus-
this, Marcus
I
knows
want to
this.
focus on that statement Mike made about being tongue-tied. He's never tongue-tied. Never tongue-tied.
Only for-
Valid point. Valid point.
But yes, he did, I saw that.
Valid point.
Okay, there being no other business, and if anyone doesn't really care, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.